Hey, if you got this part of the video, you got the live unedited edition. Home Gadget Geeks Thursday night. It's the 9th of November. It's just a minute before 8 p.m. or now maybe even 8 p.m. in the Central Time Zone. If you got this any other time than that, you've got the recorded version. Don't go anywhere. We'll get started here in just a second. But if you are if you're listening to the live show, love to have you in chat. There's a link on the live page. I think on my page it's down here. At work it's up here, but on my page it's down here. And we'd love to have you in the chat room. I saw Brian already. Ed Sullivan is hanging out with me tonight. Ed, welcome.
Why, thank you, Jim. It's a pleasure to be back.
It's good to have you back. And we won't do a pour, but how's Cigar Authority? You are the Cigar Authority.
I'm one of them, but
yeah, I think you are the one.
You think I'm the one?
I'm not sure they know what they're talking about.
Some don't, some do, but yeah, I'm not going to have a cigar while we do the show.
You're not going to?
Not inside. Okay.
Yeah,
you know how it goes.
No, it's not allowed.
You know, for me, I'm just going with my standard beverage, Jim.
Oh, good.
A delightful Diet Coke. It'll give me that little bit of caffeine that'll hopefully get me through this.
Doesn't keep you awake at night?
No.
You'll be just fine.
Yeah, okay. We'll see if I stay awake through all of this even.
I'll be like, Ed. Hey, for those of you who think we're going to talk cigars and you're like, I don't anything to do with that. We're not. We actually have no cigar talk. That's maybe not the last time.
Right? It won't be about cigars. It'll be a little bit about the podcast about cigars, but the focus is on the podcast and the tech
and the equipment that'll went along with it. So
right.
I have an Izzy tonight, and so have you ever had an Izzy?
I haven't. These sparkling apple.
Yeah, this one. They've got all kinds of different, the flavors they make up. It's just a word generator where they put two words together,
Right.
Flying sunshine or whatever, like that's orange.
Sparkling apples.
So this is sparkling. It's really tasty.
Huh. Is it delightful?
But in the glass, I have yeah. We've got a little this is a little easy times. Quick times, easy times. I think it's easy times.
Yeah, quick time is something else.
Mm-hmm. Jay says evening. Good to see you, Jay. Brian was checking in earlier. Good to see you guys. Thanks for coming out tonight. So those are my two. That's hopefully that'll get me through the podcast.
I hope so.
I need a drink dispenser here at the desk. You don't spend a lot. Do you spend a lot of time at your desk there?
If I'm working on audio or editing video, this is where my main computer is. This is a iMac Pro with the Xeon processors, but
it's an older one, right?
This would be older. This might be 4 or 5 years old at this point. So
it still works pretty well.
It was top of the line, but now, my 2-year-old MacBook Pro with the M1 Max chip is a lot faster at video and audio processing.
So you can sit on the porch and go and do video editing faster than yours isn't the trash can. It's the one that built in.
It's the one that's all built in. But I mean, I get for especially for video, I'd rather do it on this just because I get the 27-inch screen.
Right.
Although, the 16-inch MacBook Pro has pretty good resolution. You can get stuff done on there.
You could put a bigger screen, right? You could get a bigger
screen. Could do that. I could do anything.
You could. Brian says those M series chips, Apple chips, really revolutionize things. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, after the M1 was the big leap, M2 it was sort of like, okay, that's a little bit better. M3 doesn't seem to be. It seems very marginal versus the M2 when you look at some of the performance tests that have come out. Although I think the biggest upgrade there may have been on the GPU side, but I'm not in a hurry to change out of this M1. How about you, Jim? Are you going to change soon?
Well, you and I talked about this the other day, and I thought they were going to announce the M3 Mac Mini
They didn't,
here
though.
in this announcement. They did not. So it looks like it'll probably be the spring, maybe
Mhm.
now before they. And I don't know. That seems like it'd be a nice jump for me. I think I've had this coming up on 2 years.
Yep.
I think it'll be 2 years this February. That seems like it'd be a nice jump to go from the M1 to the M3. Don't you think?
Well, it's 2 more, isn't it?
Well, that's allegedly.
Yeah.
Allegedly.
I mean, you could take the practical approach and ask yourself, what's that M1 not doing that you need it to do?
Well, I mean, it does everything
Well,
exactly
yeah,
the way I need it to
well,
do, right? It's a phenomenal machine, but I'm assuming the M3 will go even faster.
it'll
And
be more phenomenal.
right, right. I mean,
Uh,
it already. I mean, in my workflow when I'm editing this show, and then I've been doing some Gallop work on it as
yeah,
well.
and
It goes as fast as I mean, I wait, so it could
could be
get faster.
faster. Yeah.
Make me not wait.
I mean, in the end, do you really care about anything except monitor support?
Yeah, well, it's got to support a bunch of monitors.
Oh, yeah.
Well, no, that's not true. The M1 is just on one monitor here.
Yeah.
So, I've got a 1440, how wide is this thing? 30. No, is it a 42? 37? I can't remember.
Yeah.
I think it's a 30. I think it's a 38.
Goes across most of your desk.
Yeah. Well, then I have a 27-inch curved right next to it. That's exactly the same.
Oh, that's nice.
And I have them put together, so it goes. I mean, it literally does.
Huh. That's pretty good then.
Yeah, it's pretty fancy. When you're down here in the dungeon all day,
Yeah.
you can't. That's the only sun I see. Sonora, I think, just came out on the Mac. Have you installed? Do I have the name right? Is it Sonora?
Well, let me see. I'll do about this Mac. Sonoma, isn't it?
Sonoma. Okay. Sonora is a different place in California. Sonoma is also a different place in California.
Yeah, I'm on the latest.
So you get a new screen, like a login screen where the screen is moving. Like instead of it just being a standard picture, you kind of feel like you're traveling across this land.
Wow.
Thanks. That's a big upgrade.
Although I don't know if I've logged into this machine since I got the Apple Watch.
Oh.
Right. It just uses the watch
right
to authenticate me. So,
but that doesn't work for me every single time. I mean, there's times I come down here and it's still at the lock screen.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yours is every time? Every time?
Very consistent.
Maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe my Wi-Fi isn't good enough or something.
There's something going on there.
I'm not gonna have to look into it because I can put my password in just fine. It works just fine. So hey, if you're joining us in the chat room, let us know you're out there. I see Brian out there. He says, but it's a better screensaver than those old flying toasters, and that is for sure, Brian. It's a nice screensaver. I mean, and not really a screensaver. It's just a animated page, and it moves really slow. It's this farmland on a hill, whatever, and it just kind of slowly moves across it.
I did see that today, now that you mention it.
Yeah, to give that kind of feeling of depth. They're beautiful. It is beautiful. So we'll see in the spring. I will most likely, if they come out with an M3 Mini at a pretty good price, I will definitely pull the trigger and trade this one in.
Why not?
Do you think they'll have a trade-in? They
always do, and sometimes they give you a surprisingly decent price for it.
Yeah. I figure that's one of those things I'm on the cusp with I got the iPhone 12, and I'm on the cusp of that not being worth anything here pretty quick. So
I'm also on the 12. As long as it's working, I'm not going to do anything with it.
Yeah, that was the decision I made too.
I don't find it as compelling to get USB-C on the iPhone because I already bought all the other stuff.
Right. You have a whole bunch of lightning
Yeah.
connectors, right? I do.
Yeah.
They're in every room.
Lightning to USB, lightning to 1/8-inch audio.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
might as well keep it as long as I
have
can.
lightning to HDMI. So I have one.
I got one of those too.
You know?
Yeah, you need that. I don't know why, but you do.
I used it like twice since I bought it. Hey, if you're just joining us, Kevin Schoonover says flying toasters are retro classic. They are indeed.
Yeah, and
Windows 3.1.
There were a lot of fish in those days too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But the toasters, the cool kids had the toasters.
Mm-hmm. And there was the flying Windows symbol too.
Yeah, I didn't like that one. Toasters were the way to go.
All right, let's kick this thing off. We're 10 minutes after.
All right, remind me if I'm going to share something. I haven't been on this StreamYard in a while. Is that just present?
Present, yeah. Present, and then
I'm not going to do it right this minute.
Share screen, and it won't. It'll pop up for me, and then I can share it when we're ready. So
I see. I can do it anytime.
Anytime you want. It can.
That's amazing.
Just technology these days. Technology, it's great. Well, let me get through this intro, and then we'll get talking about some equipment, some gear. Okay. This is the Average Guy Network, and you have found Home Gadget Geeks show number 590 with guest Ed Sullivan, recorded on November 9th, 2023. Here on Home Gadget Geeks, we cover all the favorite tech gadgets that find their way into your home. News, reviews, product updates, and conversation, all for the average tech guy. I'm your host, Jim Collison, broadcasting live from the AverageGuy.tv studios. What's going to be a beautiful Bellevue, Nebraska. The weather is just, I was looking for the next 10 days, and it's like 60s during the day and 40s at night. Couldn't ask for more. And Ed, so some of that weather's coming your direction as well.
I hope so. We had our first mixed precipitation last night, kind of freezing rain, snow. Yeah.
You have to get a little bit of that out of the way, and then the good weather comes back. For everybody complains, right? They're like, oh, where did fall go? And you're like, have you not been watching the last 17 weeks? But of course, we'll post this show with some pretty great show notes that Ed has put together. Everything we talk about tonight, for the most part, we'll have a link and a lot of gear conversation tonight. So check out the show notes out at theaverageguy.tv. Big thanks to our Patreon subscribers. And we picked up a couple this month, which I appreciate. If you guys want to join the team, jump out there. We have a $5 plan, easy to get in. You don't get anything for it except supporting me. I mean, I want to be real with you. Like I do have a little a badge, a little 3D printed badge I can send you if you want, and you're in the United States and it's convenient. But if you want to do that, check it out. The Average Guy. And I'm not selling my Patreon subscription. But
I'm already a Patreon member.
Yeah.
So
thank you. Thanks for doing
I'm not signing up again. You should just know that. Just the one.
Well, I mean, 2 is better than 1, right? So check it out today, theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. And a big thanks to those of you, a couple of you have joined in recently. And then big thanks last week, a little bit of a show where I spent some time updating you on some things that's going on in my life. And I got some emails back from you. Always nice to hear from everybody. And so I appreciate your emails. Not too late. If you want to send me an email or you want to chat about it, send it to Jim@theaverageguy.tv. And I always appreciate you guys. You've heard him already, but my buddy from Boston, Ed Sullivan, is back. Ed, great to have you on, and welcome to Home Gadget Geeks.
Well, it's great to be back here. And yeah, I think you and I had been chatting about my experience. For the people who aren't aware, I produce a podcast called The Cigar Authority. And normally we do that in, Jim, I would say it's about as professional a looking studio as
it's very nice.
Anything out
very
there.
Nice. Yeah,
nice. The host of the podcast, Dave Garofalo, just decided he wanted his studio to look like a TV newsroom. And I think he came pretty close. For the viewers, I got a picture there queued up of the the studio. And so, yeah, we've got, nice acrylic top desk and all the LED lighting, couple monitors where we can put different stuff on there. And that's been set up. Everything's ready to go when I walk in the door. All the audio, there's all the lighting. And then Dave decided he was going to do a New England Cigar Festival and wanted to do this show live in front of about 500 people we had watching the show live while we were streaming this. And he sort of wanted it to be also very good. And really the equipment in the studio, it wasn't possible to easily transport that. There's a bunch of stuff that's rack mounted, all the lighting, all of that
desktop
stuff.
computer, right? You guys use a desktop computer for that?
We actually use a Windows desktop in the studio. And so I had to figure out how to recreate this whole thing and make it more mobile. And I spent quite a bit of time on it. And, then right before we were to go there, Dave says to me, "They tell me the electricity's not very good there." I said, "Well, what does that mean exactly?" He said, "I don't know. This is just what they're telling me." So I didn't know if I know as much as anybody would know from the electricity's not very good. So I ended up going out to buy, one of the expensive Furman power strips. I figured it probably, the quality of the power probably wasn't good there. And then I think it was only a week before where he told me, yeah, they say sometimes when you plug anything in, it trips the breaker. And once I heard that, I decided what I needed to do was bring my own power with me. But I did put an image there, Jim, of what we ended up looking like at this. So we did a pretty good job of it in terms of creating what we could. This was actually in a tent, and the stage is a trailer from a tractor trailer. So Dave got some video people in to do a video board for us, and we can see in the foreground on the left is the main camera I use for that. And it's very similar to the one we've got in the studio. It's by a company called PTZOptics, and they make sort of high-end pan tilt zoom cameras. And for me, taking that with me, it's really helpful to have optical zoom. Then this actually has a 20x zoom, so it'll go all the way to like an 85 millimeter equivalent lens. So I can put that fairly far back and still frame a good picture that's crystal clear. It's a 1080p camera, and really we're using it primarily for streaming. So I'm not too interested in 4K for that purpose. In fact, I think we're still streaming 720.
Yeah, you wouldn't really. I mean, 4K may cause more problems, right, from a streaming perspective?
I think it would. And I haven't even gone to the point of moving to 1080 yet. Sort of one of these things. See, you got all the links right there, Jim.
Yeah, trying to bring those up as quickly as as quickly as we're talking about them.
It's not
$1,300.
It's not inexpensive,
right?
This one is a USB. In the studio, we've got the SDI version of it, but I thought for simplicity, let's go with the USB. You can see in the back, you can also run Ethernet to it. So it does support NDI as well. I think you can also plug in a serial controller there. And it's got, besides the USB, you can take HDMI out from the camera as well, which we actually did at the event because they had screens for the audience. You know, the tent was a very large tent, so they had some screens up front where they broadcast the image from the camera, and then I was taking it into the Mac from the USB. So really, to put the whole thing together, I ended up with, let's say, quite a mishmash of equipment.
Well, let's talk about the Mac, because I think let's start with that really quick. And for folks who think, like, and Tony had said, Tony came and said, I don't smoke or don't drink. That's okay, because we're not really going to talk. Well, this was a cigar event.
Right.
It's all
could be any podcast.
Yeah. It could be anything. So you've come to the right place. So if you've been teetering, I'd gotten some feedback from the listeners. Like, we talked about some cigars for a while.
Yeah.
And I got some feedback from it. Like, well, that's really not my gig. It's okay. Tonight it doesn't have to be your gig.
That's fine. All right. This is how behind the scenes looked. A little bit messy here. I promise I cleaned it up a little bit before the show, but in the forefront there, you see that USB camera that wasn't out front yet. I just went with the same mixer we use in the studio, which is a Mackie mixer, and I forget the model, but Jim knows it. It's not that critical which one it was.
FX12?
It might have been the FX12v3, because they're on version 3 of that now.
It's the newest one. Yeah, it would be V3.
And they did upgrade the preamps quite a bit on that, and besides, I had to, well, you can see on the external monitor there, I was using OBS primarily because that's what we use in the studio. And so I'm very familiar with it. And what we'd do is use OBS. I actually stream from OBS to Restream.io. OBS isn't particularly good at multi-streaming, right? If you're not going to another place to send out the multiple streams, you'd have to send multiple from my computer, which doesn't make a lot of sense depending on how much bandwidth is available to us. So I just go to Restream, and that redistributes it to Facebook and YouTube. And yeah, you can see lower right corner, that's the hub I've got attached to that computer. That one really gives me quite a few connections. I think you got that in the document there, Jim. I've actually been pretty impressed with that one. It's not a cheap unit, but it gives me a lot of USB connections. There we are. Gives me Ethernet port, and I was fortunate enough to actually be able to hardwire. So I was able to plug into hardwired network. That's also got, a couple HDMI outs on it. Although in the end, I wasn't sure how much stuff I really wanted to hang off of this. So I ended up, for the external monitor, I just went right into the MacBook Pro itself. Mm-hmm. I believe I also went in with the camera connection right into the MacBook, but I had a keyboard and mouse plugged into there. I had the audio plugged into there. Then, for the audio, I ended up going from that Mackie. The Mackie only has one headphone out, so I ended up going with an external headphone amp and that one was also a Mackie product. Huh.
No, that's just in my queue. That was
I was
was
going to
trying
say
to do it on.
I
No,
didn't use one of those.
no, but they're kind of cool. Have you ever seen these?
I have.
Yeah, these.
I
Maybe it was
have.
something you and I talked about at some point. Being able to take your microphone and come straight right. You could turn any XLR microphone right into a USB mic.
Yeah, and I heard some audio from them. They actually do a decent job of it. You know, those types of gizmos have been around for a while, but usually
Mhm.
they didn't sound particularly good. I thought this one sounded fairly good.
Pair it with SM58, maybe like that's the industry standard microphone, right? You have a pretty good mic, maybe.
Yeah, SM58
Yeah.
works great. In that price point for a dynamic stage mic, I'm liking the SE Electronics V7.
Mm.
And it's same price as the SM58. What I find is it's got a little more juice in the presence and a little more clarity to it than the SM58. And if it's just going to be on your desk, then you don't have to. I mean, it's a very sturdy, well-built mic, but everybody knows the SM58 you could run over with a car and it'd be
Mhm.
perfectly fine. But I don't tend to run over my microphones, so that's less of a feature for me.
Right. You're not the roadies aren't out there throwing them at each other and some of those kinds of things.
No. And,
Yeah.
then the other one that was sort of a last minute change in the setup was we were having a special guest who, let's say, he can't control his dynamic range very well. Uh, and people may be familiar with him, comedian named Bill Burr, who does a lot of yelling. And, then I sort of realized it's going to be hard to dial him in a way where he's not going to cause some distortion for me. So kind of at the last minute, I added a compressor, and it really was a very simple setup on the compressor to really use it as a brick wall limiter. And so you could essentially yell as loud as you want into the microphone without it distorting. And that was a sort of a last minute addition. Wow, did I pay that much for it? I must have, huh?
Yeah, 200 for a DVX 266. These are kind of from a podcasting standpoint. These have become, I shouldn't say become. I've heard a lot of podcasters using these for
They're using the
yeah.
DBX channel strip usually,
Okay. Okay.
right? Because the channel strip
Yeah.
actually has a microphone preamp. This one just takes sound sources. It's got a Gazinta and a Gazauta, and it lets you do some gating and compression on it, or expansion. But for me, it was really just functioning as a limiter. So what I'd do is come out with the audio from my board into this, apply that limiter, and then that went into the house sound system, just so we wouldn't be blowing out the speakers in
Mhm.
house.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, they were emceeing kind of an athletic, we'll call it, an
yeah,
athletic event, right?
yeah, with
And
a
so
lot of excitement, and the
yes,
announcers tended
yeah.
to go from talking relatively normal to screaming fanatically.
Uh,
But the other thing I sort of realized too, in the studio, as I say, we're running the video over SDI, which really doesn't have a lot of length constraints. However, the same cannot be said for USB.
mhm.
It's I don't know what it is. Is it I don't know what they say the limit is. It's
Is
not
it
much. It might be
50 meters, or is it 25 meters or something like that?
Not
Is that
even close.
3 meters?
Yes,
Is that
that
what
is
it
the
is?
number. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, you can often get away with running something longer, but if you're trying to push video on it, you really can't afford the degradation over a longer run. So that was another addition. I ended up buying a USB fiber optic extension cable.
Okay. So what? Okay, like I've never heard of one of those. So what does that do for? It just gets you USB farther? Is that what it does?
It does. It does. So that'll take the USB out to 15 meters, so roughly 50 feet. So that led to, I think, my only miscalculation in this whole thing, because I had tested the audio video sync by just plugging the camera into the Mac. And then I sent out the live stream, and when I went back to look at the recording, the audio and video were not in sync. So I think we had some kind of delay by using this cable. But that's okay. I'm gonna
not a cheap cable. That's another $125 cable there, right? I mean, now you can
It
there's
is.
a coupon for 10% off, and you can get, there's some deals going on right now, but still about $100 cable to get 50 feet as opposed to just 10 feet.
10.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, 10 doesn't get you far when you're trying to position that PTZ camera.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
oddly, 50 doesn't often get you all that far.
Yeah. Would you do it differently? Would you have, now that you've done what you've done, would you do that differently? Would you do that setup differently in any way?
Not necessarily with that camera, but I might not buy that camera. I might have bought another SDI.
Okay.
And the other benefit of the SDI is that if you run PoE, you don't need a power cable for it.
Right.
It gets sufficient power over the PoE, but it really can't get enough power. For whatever reason, they didn't make it PoE on the USB camera.
Yeah.
And it can't get enough power from the USB, so you've got to plug that one in, which leads us to sort of our batteries, right? Because I use two different sets of batteries. That's the big boy that I ran all of the audio equipment from, and that's
it's a Jackery 1000, right?
It's a 1000.
Why'd you go with Jackery as opposed to, I've been going through, Ugreen, and I bought a Blue Yeti. then you said to me, well, I bought a Jackery, and I felt a little I guess my marketing's not good enough. But why'd you go Jackery?
I'm not really using it in the same way you're using yours.
Right.
I'm just using it for AC power on the go. And you're really using it for power failures at home, right?
Yeah. And the Jackeries have been slow to get that UPS function in it.
They're not doing the UPS function right now. I guess it's probably a similar price to what you got, right?
Right on. This is $700. I think I paid $750 for the
right.
Ready. It's a 1200. Well, it's 1,000, but it has a few more watt hour capacity than this one does. This one would have worked for me. This size, anywhere in that 1,000 range would have worked for me. I run about 600 watts on my computer equipment down here, so I wanted some overhead built into it.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean this that lasted pretty well for about 8 hours, and unfortunately, I didn't know that my equipment would have to be powered on for the length of the event, which was sort of 8 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
But luckily, somebody you know, Jim, chef, friend of mine, has
love chef.
has the exact same Jackery I did. So I daisy chained the Jackeries. I plugged mine into his, and that would take us out to 16 plus hours of running that equipment.
Do you think you lost anything in the, because I don't think those have DC out and DC in. Well, maybe they do, but you did AC, right?
I just went AC.
AC.
Yeah.
Right. So it went
I
from
just
DC
plugged my
to
Jackery
AC,
into
back to DC, back to AC, right? So there was probably some loss. Now, the two Jackeries got you through the day.
through the day and the night.
Yeah. Were you checking them often during the time that you were there to see? Is this?
I was. They were sitting right next to me, so I was sort of checking. Originally I thought I'd just be running this thing for 4 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't think it was going to go 14. So I was glad that he had a spare Jackery at home.
Yeah, that's a good. I mean, you got lucky, because you probably wouldn't have had enough. Do you know how many? Did you measure how many watts you were using at peak in any way?
I did not. I probably could have. I just kept my MacBook plugged in, which can suck up quite a bit of power. I probably did not have to do that, right? Because I really just needed it for the showtime.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I didn't need it to be running the house sound system and that sort of stuff. So,
right.
But since they were there, I just kept it plugged in and didn't worry about it. Now, the next issue, was the camera, which was, approximately 50 feet away from me. I didn't really want to run an extension cord all the way back. So I happened to have another one. I think it's 200 watt, made by, what was that, FlashFish or something?
I'll bring that one up here for you.
Yeah. So
you took a smaller one, pushed it out to the camera, so that it would be, it could. And did that last? I mean, the camera doesn't
pull much power. I would bet. We ran that for the 2 hours that the Cigar Authority was on, and maybe it used 15% of that or something. It really wasn't pulling a lot of power. For me, it was nice because I could just put it right underneath the tripod and then just come right straight down with the power from the camera and not have to worry about it. So all we had really running back behind stage to the computer was the USB cable.
And this is one you already owned? You didn't?
I just had that around.
Yeah.
I think I had that just for some audio stuff when I didn't have power available to me.
Right now on Amazon,
$40 coupon,
$40 off. So that takes it down to 99, right? Or something close to that, right?
89, 90 bucks
for a 200 watt.
It's been solid for me.
Yeah. Do you think, Ed, would you have, I mean, okay, this is kind of ridiculous for this kind of setup. But both of these generators that we're seeing here do have solar in, would
Right.
you have at some point would you think, like it was during the day, you could have put some solar panels out, right? And been charging these while you were using them, right? In theory, I mean that's
Yeah.
it probably not cost effective.
I haven't looked at that. Have you? I mean, are you really going to get that much power out
Well,
of the New England sun
that's true. That is true.
in the fall?
You're up north in the fall. Well, you could, the 200-watt panels would keep that 200-watt one
Yeah.
probably up and running, but you
Yeah, I
know.
mean, as it turned out, they ended up having to have a generator brought in,
Mhm.
and so I
For
was
the
able
TVs, right, for the big screens and the lights, right,
all
all that stuff.
the video
Yeah.
stuff
Yeah.
couldn't be run off there electrical either, so
Right.
they brought in the generator, so, once we shut down for the day, I was able to just plug in to
Mhm.
their electric because everything
Mhm.
else was shut down and
Mhm.
recharge those overnight.
Mhm. Did you use them the next day then again as well?
Yep. Yeah,
Good.
2-day event.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Well, that's handy to have. I mean, I've this Blue Eddy that I have. I mean, the 1,000-watt. They're now at 600 or 700 bucks. They
mhm,
actually power a lot of stuff. I mean, you can really run a lot of things off of them. At the last parade I went to, they were trying to they brought a sound system with them, and they were trying to
right.
invert it from the truck, and it was just pulling too much power. And I said, guys, why didn't you tell me? I would have brought, we could have brought my solar generator with it and powered this thing super easy for that. So,
Yeah,
those outdoor power, outdoor sound equipment, some of those kinds of things where you don't
yeah.
want to run a long cable, right?
Well, I think, Chef takes his for camping.
Right.
So, you can for a small refrigerator, you can keep that running for quite a while on one of
Hmm.
those.
Yeah,
Uh,
and you can alternate that. I mean, refrigerators are pretty well insulated, so you could
yeah,
put that on a cycle and run it and get even, double.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, after you open the refrigerator, run it to cool down again for a while, and
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
closed, it really retains the cold pretty well.
Yeah, you could even insulate it, double insulate it, put it in a, just any insulation
Yeah.
around it to kind of hold it. Jim Shoemaker in chat says I have a little EcoFlow. That's another
Mm,
popular brand of these, just mainly to play with, but it works quite well. And in a power outage, if you got, I would think for most people, a little 300 water
mhm,
to charge your phones, run some flashlights, like that kind of stuff. Because you never, you always think like, well, my phone will be my phone's fully charged. No, power always seems to go out in the evenings when your phone is
right,
at the lowest, right? Type
yeah,
thing. Some of them have, the quick charging. The Blue Eddy that I have has a quick
mm,
charging DC port on top. You could just throw your phone on top. It'll
huh,
charge an iPad or a phone that's got that quick charging stuff on it. So I think today that's the backup battery to have,
yeah,
if you're going to have something like that. And if you really want to outfit it, you could get a couple of those portable solar panels and
yeah,
just say you're going to be down for 3 or 4 days, charge those things back up during the day. If
yeah, and, probably the reason I didn't go in the same direction as you is I've got, all of this stuff on UPSs already,
Mhm.
and I have a whole house generator, right? So
Right.
it really needs to keep this stuff running for about 30 seconds
Right. Right.
before the power comes
Right.
back, so,
Yeah. Yeah. You're
eh
you're in a spot where that works out for you because your generator is just going to kick in. Hey,
right.
you had said, well, real quick, you had also talked about this, about using a Furman power strip. And, I think a lot of us just buy, we go to Target and pick up, a plastic power
Yeah.
strip. Why Furman, and
I
what's
mean,
different about this?
Furman makes high quality equipment, and really you'll see, some lights on top of there, it does well, eliminating noise that's coming through on the electrical connection. The other thing is this one has an extreme voltage shut off. So if you get some really high spike of voltage, it will shut itself off. So very good for protecting your equipment. And at the time I bought that, I had no idea what kind of mess I was plugging into. The last thing I wanted to do was damage any of my equipment.
Yeah, you're taking some of your own stuff, and the power is going to be kind of jankety. And
yeah,
so
it was mostly my own stuff, which is another reason. Even when there's power available, I may end up using the Jackery in some situations. I know it's clean power.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I know I'm not going to get any noise.
You're going to lose a little efficiency, but in most cases, you just don't care, right?
I just don't care. No, I could just essentially plug that into whatever power's available, and then plug my stuff into the Jackery and then not have to worry about it.
Yeah. Well, now I mean, you ran all that stuff off that single 1,000-watt Jackery. Pretty heavy, or is that pretty easy to carry around?
It's heavy-ish. I mean, it's portable. It probably says in the specs, I don't know what it feels like, 30 pounds. I'm guessing. But, it's certainly something that you don't want to carry around everywhere you go, Jim. But
yeah, but I mean, you carried it around, right?
Yeah. It's not crazy, but
it's not like you had to have it on a dolly or a dock or,
no. I think the bigger ones they make have the built-in dolly with a handle.
Yeah. EcoFlow has one of those where you can build it in. Jim Shoemaker makes a good point. He says, I wouldn't buy any battery portable generator without first checking out the app if they've got one. And I think most of them now it's Blue Eddy or Jackery, or does that Jackery have an app associated with it? Did you? I'm sure they do, right?
Couldn't tell you, but probably.
Okay. Yeah, the EcoFlow for sure. Yeah, they've actually the Blue Eddy app has been a good one. In fact, I bought a Android tablet and put it on a mount that's sitting up above the monitors, and its sole job is just to monitor the generator. So I can tell right now there's 700. It's pulling 700 watts from the grid, and I have about 700 watts going out of that thing. And let's remember, it's running 5 PCs and 11 monitors. So you're like 700. Well, okay, I've got a few things kind of running as I'm down here. It'll get into the high 7s when I turn on my work stuff. But
I must be getting weaker, Jim. That Jackery's 22 pounds.
Oh,
felt like 30.
Yeah, that's not bad.
No, it's not.
That's not bad. Yeah,
not bad.
Brian makes a good point. He says, and you couple how the electronic items themselves are becoming more energy efficient, right? Those portable power boxes can go.
Yeah, I mean, out of all the stuff I plugged in, I imagine the MacBook was drawing the most power.
Do you think so? That board, the Mackie, you don't think with the
it's not that'd probably be next in line, but I don't think any of the things were crazy power hogs. Just in the event of catastrophic problems, I did bring a digital audio recorder as well, and I don't know why all of a sudden I decided I'll run that off its batteries. But I certainly had a overkill of a digital audio recorder since I brought my Mix Pre 6, which is, I don't know, I think about $1,000.
Yeah, that's a very nice
It's
Very nice piece of equipment, right?
very, very, very nice piece of equipment, and I'll use that sometimes when I'm going out to do video shoots. That's got 4 channels of audio coming into it. The thing I like is that it's got a tripod mount on the bottom of it, but then it has a 1/4 inch on the top of it. So you can essentially put that flat on your tripod and then mount your camera on top of that. So works out pretty well.
Camera
But
can go, you just sandwich it right
yep,
between your tripod and your camera, and then cable goes into that, and then you can
yep.
kind of capture the audio the way that you want to with that. Yeah, that'd make a nice little, you know, tripods need to come with more like straps and things to put more
They,
equipment on them, right? You
they're
know,
making a lot of attachments for tripods these
are they?
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can get them pretty decked out, but
The Bix Pre 6 has a battery. Is that what you said? And is that rechargeable, or do you got to replace it?
so what that actually uses rechargeable camera batteries.
Okay.
So it's got a battery sled that plugs onto the back. Well, in fact, I probably have it right here, Jim. This is the charger with the battery on it. And what you can do is this little battery sled, and you can actually put a battery on each side of this. And I think that'll give me, for audio recording, 14, 15 hours.
Oh, okay. Plenty. Yeah. Plenty of.
You know, they also have an AC adapter for it.
Yeah.
Which actually turns out to be just USB, but it can't get enough power
Right.
from a computer USB.
Right.
Although it's interesting, I was just looking at some other device, Jim. You know which one I'm talking about that I just bought.
Oh yeah. Should we talk about it?
Yeah, why not? It's a fun thing.
Yeah. I'll look it up while you talk about it.
So this just came out about a little over 2 weeks ago, and this is the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, which is a nifty little camera. Not cheap though. $519.
Cheaper. I bought a Sony, A600 or something like that when I was up there, right? We did it in New Hampshire, so I didn't have to pay tax. And I guess I shouldn't admit that, but this is $520. So I mean,
it's not unreasonable for what it is.
Yeah, right.
You know, and they also have one that is a whole creator kit that's $150 more than that, but it gives you a lot of things that don't come with the normal version. So the thing that's cool about this is that it has a gimbal, right? So you don't have to deal with it's not going to pick up that screen very well. You don't have to deal with digital image stabilization. This does a great job. The other impressive thing about it is that it has a 1-inch sensor in it. So it really does a good job with low light, for example. And this will record 4K 60 frames per second.
That's crazy.
Or you can actually record slow motion 4K at 120 frames per second.
That's insane. for that small
So
of a device. What do you think? How big? So, like, you think in your average webcam,
yeah,
what do you think the size of those sensors? Quarter inch, maybe? Eighth of an inch? I mean, they're pretty small, right?
they are pretty small. Yeah, usually I I haven't. I don't know if I've even seen specs on them. I mean, they're small enough that if you don't bathe yourself in light,
Right.
you're not
Yeah.
going to get a
Yeah.
very good image,
Yeah. Right.
and
Right.
yeah, with this the battery that comes with this, you'll get over 2 hours recording
Mm.
4K 60 frames per second. And
Would you run out of memory before you ran out of? I mean, would you run out of hard drive space before you ran out of memory
so this particular
or battery? That's what I mean. Sorry.
this particular unit uses micro SD, and if you're recording 4K, you have to buy good ones,
Mm-hmm.
fast.
Right. Those fast brand. Yeah.
Yeah, so they've got a list of recommended, and the one I just ordered from Amazon, they support up to a 512 gigabyte card.
Okay.
So you'll get plenty of storage to match the battery, and it's on a card if you really
Yeah.
got to
Yeah.
keep going, and
Yeah.
then you can
But
certainly bring extra SD cards with you.
I think this is, out of all the things we've talked about tonight, this is probably the most home gadget
It is.
consumer focused, because, and you would think, well, yeah, this is really designed for vloggers, right? For folks doing all these DIY channels on YouTube, all these folks doing stuff. But I would think as a family camera, like to take it out.
Vacation footage
Yes. Well,
would
it
be
would be
incredible.
amazing. The video they show of someone holding that and running, they're
I mean,
holding it
full
and running.
speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they're filming someone else running,
Yep.
and it looks like it was on a track. I mean, it's amazing.
It's amazing the
Yeah.
quality that they're getting out of this. Then, with the creator kit, they also give you this handle extension that's also an extended battery.
Mm-hmm.
So once you plug that in, it actually makes it more comfortable to
I was
hold.
gonna say that's probably easier to hold that way than
Yeah, in fact,
with I just keep the battery on it, to be honest.
yeah,
You
in
know,
fact,
be nice if it had a little grip on the battery,
what they do is this is more of just a dummy one that doesn't come as part of the creator kit, but it gives you an extension, and then that's also where they put the 1/4 inch mount for a tripod.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, and I'm assuming then you could probably use some of the GoPro like attachment equipment, because I think that has that same 1/4 inch connection, or is that
GoPro's
like
got
they have their
another
own thing?
attachment
Oh,
methodology. However, it's a separate accessory, doesn't even come with the creator's kit, but they make an expansion device for this. So what it'll do is it's plastic that just clips onto this unit. Then that also gives you a cold shoe attachment, as well as the standard GoPro type attachment, so you can go buy all the GoPro stuff that clips to backpacks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Which is
Helmets, cars.
Well, and that is a key point, though. This is not an action cam. It's not weatherproof.
Okay.
So it's not really meant to be used in the same way. that you might use an action cam, it's probably not going to last that long if you do it like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Really designed to be handheld,
Yep.
person operated, not mounted
And
to the front of your car while you're four-wheeling. I mean, some of the things I've seen GoPros go through now with these DIYers on YouTube, they're like, "Welp, broke another GoPro,"
although a surfer friend of mine lost one in the Atlantic Ocean and found it a couple weeks later and it was still fine.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
here's the other interest. Well, this unit actually has standalone 3 microphones on it. The
Mhm.
audio is better than most camera audio, but
Mhm.
if you're putting it on a tripod and moving around while you're filming something, you're not going to get very good audio about that from that. It won't be consistent. But as part of the creator kit, you also get one of these gizmos, which is a wireless microphone. And the nice thing is that they built the receiver right into this unit.
Mm.
So with this, it also has 8 gigabytes of local storage on it. So in the event that, there were any transmission problems while you're recording, you've got a backup on here that you could pull off here and then just resync with your video.
Smart. Micro
So
USB, USB-C. What's the connection on those to?
it's all USB-C on here.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, and in fact,
Tony just said the Pocket 3 Creator Combo #1 on his Christmas list. Tony takes a lot of pictures. Can it go into picture mode, or is it
it can
only
go
video?
into picture mode,
Okay.
and it actually does a good job with time-lapse stuff.
Okay.
So it's got a time-lapse mode that you can
Yeah.
set up, and
Yeah.
you can configure this so that when you turn it on, you can configure it to point in either direction and, for example, just start recording immediately. And if you've seen any of the other devices, the startup time on this is just really impressive how quickly this thing comes on.
Yeah, a couple seconds, right?
Couple seconds. Yeah.
On that.
About 2 seconds.
Yeah.
The nice thing then is that with this case, see, this does a good job of protecting the camera when you turn it off. The camera is pointing all the way towards the back of the device. Then with this case, this could go in your pocket. You're ready to roll.
Mm-hmm.
And
Throw it in your backpack. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
if you have the extension on it, it sticks out, a little bit further off the end, but that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. Do you think they'll come out with a GoPro version of this? Not version, but a more, I mean, you said to me before the show, you think this thing's going to sell out.
I could not find the creator kit when I went to order one a couple days ago. It was sold out everywhere I looked. For me, you can pretty much buy all the stuff separately, except for they don't even sell this yet.
Yeah.
They will, but nobody knows what the price of it'll be. But I already have Rode Wireless Go mics.
Mm-hmm.
So for that purpose, I'll use the Rode Wireless Go with this.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as sleek because I'll have to keep the receiver unit with this. So I'll have to get that accessory mount.
Right.
So I'll just have the little receiver attached to the base of this, but that'll be fine if I already have the mics. I think right now the gating factor is these microphones because they're not selling them separately, and the ones without the microphones are still somewhat available, although those seem to be going pretty quickly too.
Yeah.
It looked like the reorder on the creator kit. Most people were saying January is when the delivery will be. So
Wow. Okay.
I think they've been successful enough where they're going to miss the holiday season.
Yeah, Tony says it's sold out most places. He just looked, and
Yep.
he has the Action 2, but the screen on the 3 is better, for sure.
On the
Yeah.
on the Action 2, if I remember it was smaller and just fit. I don't think it even went horizontal.
Didn't flip,
No,
so to speak.
no. So
What a genius move to have that be the on switch 2, right? Where you
and
flip it and it turns it on. That's
right,
cool.
and you can configure it which direction you want it to point in. So if you're doing all selfie stuff, you could just
Right.
have it point right at you, and within a couple
Mhm.
seconds, talk.
Mhm.
And you can also configure it so it just starts recording when you turn it on. So if
Mhm.
you were doing stuff where you're starting and stopping and want to be able to get going quick, they really did a good job with it. They've also
Go ahead.
Yeah, they've also got an app for it, and the app is pretty good. There's functions in there. The latency on it is pretty impressive. So you can almost use your phone as a monitor, using the app.
Mhm.
The other thing it's got
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Wow.
also it'll stream directly to Facebook and YouTube. So it's got Wi-Fi built into here. It's got Bluetooth. It's got a lot
Could I
in here for
could I
$519.
use it as a USB webcam and stream from it that way, like this?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Yeah,
Um,
that
the webcam thing, I've noticed some, what do we want to call them? Anomalies?
okay.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
trying to set it up earlier, and for whatever reason, and maybe it'll change with a firmware update, you can't get audio from this when you're using it as a webcam.
Mm.
No device appears at all as an audio device coming from the webcam.
Yeah.
Now,
Which should be okay for us, right? I
for
mean,
us,
we're
it's
we're
fine.
using microphones, so it'd be okay.
Now, I did see somebody else who managed to use this as a webcam. And I agree, it could be a feature, because how
Yeah.
many times have you picked up audio you don't want from a
Right.
webcam?
Right. Right. You're like,
I
"Oh, why am I on the webcam?" In fact, I don't even know. Right now, you would have never have let me come to the show
No.
not on my mic, but there's are people who let you do that sometimes, and you're like,
No.
"You've been listening
Uh,
to me off my webcam? What is wrong with your ears?" And they're like,
yeah.
"I don't know. I'm sorry. I
Now,
didn't mean it."
I did see one guy who ended up being able to connect this wireless mic to his MacBook Pro via Bluetooth
Oh, okay.
and then use this as a webcam.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That should work.
it's workable. But the other thing they've got in here, just in the little case itself, is a wide angle lens. So
Oh,
yeah, and these attach magnetically to
would that
the
give you the fisheye look if you were, or is that
so
different?
this already is pretty wide angle. It's like a
Okay,
20 millimeter equivalent.
okay,
So this takes it to 15, which a lot of people like for vlogging. I think the 20 is pretty good.
okay.
But then there are all kinds of filters available for it. So there's ND filters, which can help you if you've got really bright light, black mist filters, all kinds of accessories, all kinds of extra stuff to buy, Jim.
All kinds
But
of extra stuff for you to buy, Ed.
but really, the way it looks like this works when you have the extended battery pack. I think the extended pack is really just charging this device, right? So you could certainly buy multiple of these to carry with you during the day and,
Right,
bring another SD card. So,
and the battery levels on the screen, and you can kind of see,
you can see,
where your card level is too, right?
yeah, on here, you can see the card level. You can see the battery level of the device, the battery level of the extended battery, and the battery level of the wireless mic. All available right there. So
Yeah,
they've packed a lot of functionality into
a
this.
lot in there. They're gonna need some AI in that thing to control all that stuff,
Well, they claim they have they've got really good image tracking in here.
Yeah, Tony just said active track would be great for blogging.
Yeah, and then you can actually lock it on objects as well. Right. So maybe there's an object and you want to walk around that it'll lock to the object.
Do that on the screen? Do you
Mm-hmm.
and hit the screen and it locks to it? That's cool.
Yeah, they'll make a quadrant, I think, of thirds. So it's 9, which isn't a quadrant, it's 9. But a grid. Let's call it a grid, Jim.
There you go. There you go.
But
a 3x3 grid. Yes.
Right. So even with the image tracking, you can say, well, just keep me in the right side of the image that you're recording.
Yeah.
But, one guy was complaining because when you use it as a webcam, it's not recharging the device.
Oh.
Well, then I saw another guy who said, well, that's because the PC doesn't supply enough power to recharge the device. So he said, if you get a USB hub, and he had one that puts out 10 watts on the USB-C, then it worked perfectly fine recharging it and using it as a webcam.
Did the one we show earlier from you that you bought, would that put out enough? Let me I'll bring that back up.
I never looked at the specs on what it might provide.
Yeah. But something good to think about. You're like, okay, how much power are those? If you're going to plug in a docking station, you might as well get
it's much power. Yeah.
Yeah. You might as well get one that has all that is powering all the ports to their max, right? Well, it would not be riveting audio for me to be reading through this thing that we're doing,
but it's a consideration when you're thinking about it.
Yeah. Tony says it's basically a drone camera on a handle, which is awesome. Well, DJI, that's their specialty, right? I mean, they're good at that kind of stuff.
They're good at it. The other thing too is the batteries do support fast charging. So on a 30-watt charger, this will recharge from 0 to 80% in 16 minutes, which is not too bad at all. So yeah,
back up and running pretty fast.
I've got one of these that's supposed to be here tomorrow.
Oh,
yeah, but Jim, have I complained to you about FedEx?
No. Well, yes, actually,
now this has happened to me the last 3 times in a row. All right. I order this device and it says it will be delivered on Friday. Then they send me an email and say, good news, it's going to be early. It's coming on Thursday. And then today they send me an email saying, it'll be delivered either Friday or Monday. Like, what? Why tell me? And it's happened the last 3 times with FedEx where they say, good news, it's early. No, it's not early.
There must be a FedEx facility that's not as efficient as they think. And it lands there. And then
I don't know what's going on. Because I could see that it left New York at 9 o'clock last night and hadn't gotten anywhere this morning when they told me it was going to be early. I'm sure it was just going on ground.
Right.
So I didn't believe them. I don't fall for it anymore. Now I suppose I'll be grateful if it just shows up on the day they told me originally.
Or at all. You might,
Actually, on the shipping front, I think that's already becoming a thing for Amazon. Could it already be holiday craziness?
It could be. I think people are trying to get out ahead of it, right now.
I had something on the way and it said, it's been delayed. And it's weird because if I tracked the whole thing, it was, I don't know, 2 towns over or something that it got there. The day before it said it's delayed, and then another day passed and they said, yeah, it's probably not going to come at all. And I'm thinking, well, I could go get it. I know where it is.
It was on the truck.
You said you had it.
Yeah.
It's all this tracking.
I don't know. We just don't have the trouble. HelloFresh went from FedEx. They were the distributor here, and then FedEx didn't want to do it anymore. So then UPS is like, we're not delivering this stuff on the weekends. So they required we moved everything to a weekday.
Yeah.
So we now get them on Fridays. The Amazon trucks here now, the vans are now all electric. So that is creepy when you have this, these vans going through your neighborhood, and they're not making any noise at all. You're so used to those big honking FedEx and UPS trucks that are, you're like, you can hear them coming. You're like, oh, there it is. I hear it coming down the street. I don't even hear the Amazon guys anymore.
Interesting. They're very stealthy, huh?
They are stealthy. They are, and the last couple have smiled at me when they'd pull up and they'd have a box and they'd smile and say, have a great day. And I said, what's going on over there at Amazon? Are they actually taking care of their employees and stuff? I hope so. I mean, I hope that's what's going on. But Tony says FedEx delivered an empty box to Surface to Samsung, and lastly lost the Z Fold 5 that was shipped to me. They're not as good as Tony's hoping for.
No, I think they've deteriorated quite a bit over time. I mean, there was a time when I preferred them over UPS. They seem more reliable, but those days are gone. Yeah.
It's interesting. We'll have to see as Black Friday comes up this year. This will be an interesting Christmas. We'll have to see how the economy does this Christmas. It may be gangbusters, everybody just charging it to the credit cards, but it may be pulled back a little bit. You never know.
Sometimes, at Christmas time, people ignore their financial crises.
They do.
They just break out those credit cards.
Yeah. Maybe Valentine's Day will be the disaster that they're waiting for.
Well, but I don't know about all this tracking technology because Jim, that the airlines lost my luggage.
Yeah. We haven't talked about this. You put an Apple tag right in there.
I had an Apple tag in it, and it seemed not to help one little bit.
Well, you knew where it was.
I knew exactly where it was. My luggage was in Naples.
Yeah. At the airport.
And I was taking screenshots on my phone and sending it and saying, it's right here.
Right? This was Turkish Airways.
This was Turkish Air.
Yeah.
And it turns out when they lose your luggage, Jim, this is what I learned. They don't look for it.
Mm-mm.
What they do is enter it into a database so that if anybody happens to notice it or care about it, then they may return it to you. So I did get it back. It took 8 days. And I knew where it was the whole time.
You had gone to Istanbul by that point, and you were buying clothes.
I had to buy some clothes, and then I was home again. I mean, that was the good news. It was towards the end of the vacation, and I was home again, but I had to buy some things,
Yeah.
I mean,
Some cigars. You had to buy some cigars, right?
I have plenty of those at home.
Okay.
Yeah, and
But on
it's
the trip,
true.
you had to buy some, right?
I did. I had
Yeah.
to.
Got
I
it.
didn't file for reimbursement on those because I figured I would. But it's interesting because they will compensate you for delayed baggage. They just want all the receipts for it.
Mhm.
So I sent that all to him, and I wasn't unreasonable. I think it was about $375, and 5 weeks later they said, "Okay, we've decided to settle your claim." And I'm not even sure why, Jim. They said, "We'll give you 472." And I only asked for 375, so I said, "Deal." Now I'm still waiting to get that money, but
Yeah, yeah.
it wasn't clear to me why they gave me more than I
Mm.
asked for, but that's fine.
They send it to you in Bitcoin or anything like that? No.
No, well, they didn't send it at all,
Oh, right, well, it's true.
as of
That's
right.
yes,
But
they're still waiting.
that just happened last week, so I don't know. I mean, it's coming from Turkey probably, so who knows when that might happen.
It's gotta go through a conversion rate. You're gonna get like 7 cents by the time it gets
They
there.
said US dollars, so I'm hopeful.
Maybe they'll get a Tesla, somebody in a Tesla to drive it out to you,
Do you think?
automatically. No, no. I don't think that's you're never gonna see that check.
No?
No. Checks
I
in the mail, Ed. Checks
I
in the
mean,
mail.
maybe I'll get the check and it'll bounce or
Probably,
something,
yeah.
but
Or it'll be an IOU from Turkish Airways. Yeah, I just thought it was hilarious. Like that's one of those things, we do all these things to protect ourselves. And you and I talked about this, I think, over the course of 2 separate weekends.
oh yeah, it
And
went on for a while.
it was you were like, you could show me exactly in the airport where it was. And you'd
Yeah,
say to them, hey,
it's
here's
right
where
here.
it's right here. It's on one of the floors. Right? Can you just send some? Can you
Right.
dispatch the truck? And
No.
no,
And yeah, I
apparently,
was discouraged at that point. I
yeah.
said, well, all the AirTag meant for me is that I lost the cost of the AirTag too, because I can't get that back either.
Yeah, at that point,
Yeah.
there's $30, or are they? How much are they? Are they 30?
Yeah, it's
Is that what
somewhere
they
in
are?
there.
Wow,
But
wow.
yeah, and then just around day 7, I got a warning on my phone that the battery was low in my AirTag.
How long are they good for?
I probably had that for a year and a half or
Oh,
something like that.
and you can't recharge those, right?
No, it's just a 2032 battery though.
Yeah.
If you
Can you replace it?
yeah, if you
Oh,
just
okay. All right.
press down and twist,
Yeah.
and comes
Okay.
apart and you can
Little
replace
watch
the
battery.
battery in that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Little round watch battery. Okay. So yeah, maybe lesson learned, like change the watch battery in your AirTags so that it can sit in an airport for months and
Exactly.
you know exactly where it's at, but they're not interested in finding it. I still think it got slid over to the side in a hallway that
It
just didn't,
probably did.
and nobody thought. I bet dozens of people walked by that thing every day and didn't
I
do
would
right. Wouldn't you think?
I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, it'd trick you sometimes that it looked like it moved, but the accuracy of the location it's getting depends a lot on, how close the person is with the phone that
It's
they're actually
hijacking. I mean,
yeah,
using.
using the phone that they're hijacking. Yeah, that's probably the
Yes.
best way to describe it.
They're surfing across. I mean, it is a signal that's coming from that and getting shared, and you're using somebody else's device to find yours, right? Which is
Right, because
yeah.
while I was obsessing over it, I get excited and say, "It looks like it moved." Oh no, it went back to
No,
where it really is.
no, yeah. I wonder how many other bags too. I bet it was a group of bags that, like, in the middle of them moving your luggage, but your wife's luggage was fine, right? Sure, her luggage.
that's what made it really even more frustrating. Hers was literally the first bag that came out, and I thought, "Oh, this is great. We'll be out of here in no time." And I had to wait till they all came out
Yeah,
to not get mine.
and you missed a ride because of that, right? I mean, then you had to
Yeah.
wait,
Oh, yeah.
file it. You had a ride lined up that just left you
They left me.
after 90 minutes or whatever. They're like, okay, sayonara, right?
If you'll recall, Jim, it was on my birthday.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, happy birthday to Ed on that
Like
day.
I say, at least we were only in Istanbul a couple days and then back home. So,
Yeah.
pretty much my full summer wardrobe was in the bag. But by the time I got back home, it was cold here. So
Yeah,
it all worked out fine.
it worked out for the best. But it is one of those stories, you get these AirTags and you think, okay, this is gonna
be great.
safeguard my luggage. I'll always know where it's at. And but that didn't help. Like, it
No.
actually, in this case, didn't help.
And you might know who Mickey Peg is. He's in the cigar industry.
Yeah.
Somebody stole his luggage. And he tried to tell the police where it was, and they didn't care either. I mean, so you can know where the stuff is,
Right.
but nobody else cares except you.
No, you got to go track it down. I guess maybe if it was your car, they might go search for it, or maybe not. Maybe they'd be like, well, when I was in college, we had our car stolen. We had a station wagon in those days, and we had it stolen one night. They, broke in and hotwired it and joyrided for the night. And then it was parked just down the street, actually, like not 2 or 3 blocks away. I got in our other car and I drove around. I thought, well, I'll just go look for it. It was like a Saturday. And there it was, sitting on the they had thrown all of our CDs out. And
because they weren't good.
No, they were definitely not good. Not what the kids were listening to those days. I was at a liberal or Christian liberal arts school. So they were like, so we lost all of that stuff, but a couple $100 to fix the steering column, and then we were back in business. Then it got stolen again. So I thought maybe I should just leave the keys in the car. It's a lot cheaper. They can drive it around for the night. If I would have known Uber was coming along, I just would have had an Uber service where they could have come and rented the car for the night, and instead of them breaking my breaking my steering column so they could hotwire it.
But you had to go find it yourself.
The first time I found it myself. The second time, I think the police found it. Yeah, pretty quick. Kids joyriding for the night, goofing around, then just depositing it somewhere close by so they could just, a ride. It in both cases it wasn't damaged. I did more damage to the station wagon driving it in the snow than they did stealing it twice. So it's well, it's so AirTags. That there's the lesson. I just think it's ironic, Ed, that these things get billed as this, don't lose your stuff. Well,
you know where it is. Doesn't mean you can get it.
Yeah. Well, Ed, did we miss anything? Anything else you want to throw in there?
I think we've said it all, Jim.
All of it?
Not all of it, but
wow, I was going to say, that's it. This is the last home
the last show we've said it all.
590.
No, it can't be the last show. I want to see next week's show.
Yeah, Erin's on next week, and she'll have some Black Friday stuff coming up, and that's always a good show when she comes on. Ed, I'll tell her not to say, Ed, buy this, because you already bought the DJI thing.
I bought this. That's enough. I don't need more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you do. Let's be clear. I do.
Probably just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't watch that show.
She's been doing some cool stuff. It's pretty cool to watch.
She's been putting out a lot of content. I've noticed.
Yeah. she's been super busy. So she'll be here next week, and then it's Thanksgiving here in the United States the week after that, and I'll be taking that Thursday off, and then we'll figure out. I've got somebody scheduled for the 30th, and then I think I may schedule, if you listen to last week's show, I'll have surgery on the 4th of December,
Yeah.
and I think that's a Monday. I think I might be able to podcast by that Thursday. I'm hoping so. So we'll see. I may have to cancel that one if I'm not in any condition to do that. I mean, it's not like this is hard. Just sit here and ask questions.
Not too strenuous.
No. As long as I'm not bleeding out here
Right.
sitting in the chair, I think I'll be okay. So
not too drugged up. I mean,
yeah, that would be. But I mean, I drink whiskey during most of these, so
true. You'll be fine.
The quality will be.
It might be a funny show.
Equally as whatever you want to call that, equally as weird. So, well, we Ed, thanks for coming out. Always great to have you back.
Thank you, Jim.
Thanks for hanging out with me on the weekends as we get together and do a cigar. I always appreciate that, and it's good to. As you were talking about all this stuff, I just said, you know what? This is a Home Gadget Geeks episode,
right? And I just got into this DJI craze. Now it's hard to get out.
Yeah. Well, you showed me that on Sunday, and I was okay. That's good. That we got. That we got to talk about. It perked up in the chat room a little bit.
Yeah, well, because Jim, it's always great to talk about stuff you can't buy.
Yeah.
And they'll be back, I'm sure.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Well, you never know when you're listening to this. I'll make sure I give it top billing in the in the title too, because my titles, they're so clickbaity that they're terrible. Well, Ed, thanks for coming out. I'll remind everyone, appreciate your sponsorship through Patreon. If you want to join the Patreon group, $5, $5 plans that are out there. theaverageguy.tv/Patreon. If you want to, by the way, big thanks to Christian, who really kind of hosts and supports the show from an infrastructure standpoint, web and media hosting. He does it all. MapleGrovePartners.com. He has plans at $10. He doesn't plan on raising the prices, at least at this point. If you need a website, if you need something done, check out Christian, MapleGrovePartners.com. If you want to send me an email, many of you did last week, and I appreciate it. If you ever want to just send me a note, send it to me, Jim at theaverageguy.tv. Jim at theaverageguy.tv. Maybe I say that too fast. Jim at theaverageguy, all one word, .tv. And I'd love your emails. We are live every Thursday, 8 p.m. Central, 9 Eastern, out here at theaverageguy.tv/live. And I'd love to have you join us. Like I said, next week, that's the Black Friday, the big Black Friday episode with Aaron Lawrence. You'll want to join us here. And good times are had by all. Tony, Jim, Brian. I don't think I saw Ken this week, which is kind of weird. He's usually out here, everyone. Joe, Katie J, Schoonover was out here. Appreciate good seeing you guys. We'll do a little bit of a post show. With that, we'll say goodbye, everybody. Good job. Tony, that DJI camera, I could see you. I could see him. That guy, he posts a lot of pictures. I could see him using that thing. That'd be
I can't remember. It might be. I don't know what it was. Somewhere around 9 megapixels on the still shots, but.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it. Good to have you out. Always fun. Thank you. I don't know, any chat room, any post show stuff you want to talk about, or add anything else that
I didn't really record much stuff on here because I figured I got to give this back to my buddy. Although it was funny. He as I'm leaving, he lent it to me this morning. He's on his phone buying the extended warranty coverage. He said, well, you old people drop a lot of stuff.
No, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. The price of, I almost never buy any extended coverage for anything, but on this, I think the price is $55 for 2 years.
Yeah.
and they'll do, I believe, up to 4 replacements and in a 3-day turnaround. So I think that one may be worth it.
Yeah, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I think
And
that's a no-brainer. I'd buy it.
I think their replacement will even cover, accidental damage and whatever it is. So I'll end up getting that, I think.
Yeah, for $55. And if you're going to be using it a lot, I just think of all the DIY, all the YouTubers that I watch and all the crazy things they do, and the tripods that get knocked over by vehicles and that kind of stuff, or what trees fall, they're cutting a tree and they think the limb's going to go this way, but it goes that way, and it just nails the camera. You see that thing go honk on the ground.
Yeah, I gotta say though that there's been an insane amount of YouTube videos on this device.
Oh, I bet.
And
I bet. Yeah.
There was
How
one.
long's it been out? When did it come out?
15 days ago.
Okay. 2 weeks.
Yeah, a little over 2 weeks. I don't know if they just didn't have the manufacturing capacity to build enough, or they underestimated the demand.
Yeah, maybe they
or
didn't
both.
think it was going to be that popular. Yeah. No, although I have read in a lot of places the pandemic shortages are over. Like everybody's back to full speed for most part. So the auto industry was one of the last ones, they had that massive chip shortage. And now most of those vehicles that they set off to the side, I mean, it's going to be a problem. They set those things off to the side. It took a year or two. Now they're putting them in. Those cars are a year old already, right? And then, so they flood the market with those at a reduced price or whatever. I don't know. They turn those into fleet vehicles. I don't know. And then you got to buy new ones. I mean, if you're waiting to buy a new car, I wouldn't buy it now, but man, next year might be the year.
Yeah. Yeah, I think they had a whole pile of Corvettes sitting around for the longest time waiting on parts.
A bunch of new ones. Yeah, I've seen a bunch of new ones. I signed up for the Subaru. I bought that Legacy in 2021, and for the last, I don't know, year, I get a weekly email like, "Hey, we have your next car here."
Oh yeah.
And it started at I bought that car. I think I paid 27 for it, maybe 26. So the first cars that I saw a year ago during when the craze was going on, right? They were like, "Hey, 35, same car, 35." I'm like, I paid 26. That's okay, that's $9,000 more in a year, right? And then what I've watched them, Ed, every week they come down a little bit, and now they're at 30.
And I think that's where I may be seeing some of the economy kicking in. People aren't making those major purchases.
Yeah,
they're still buying stuff, but I don't know if they're buying all that many cars right now.
I don't think they are. And boy, it's just so I keep watching that. You could never see deflation happen like I'm watching it happen in these emails that I'm getting. Hey, we got your car. This one's 29. This was the first week it was 29. And you're like, oh, actually, then okay. And I'm not going to pay that. So I'd be like, hey, 27. And they would probably sell it to me for that right now. And that would be pretty close to what I paid for that Legacy in 2021 before all the shenanigans happened. So maybe we'd be back. Now, trucks may be a different scenario. Tesla's dropped their prices, right? I mean, I think you can get a Series 3 for 40 now or something like that.
Yeah, the prices have come down quite a bit.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that the high-end Model S Plaid, 0 to 60 in 1.99 seconds. I believe when they came out, they were closer to 120, 130,000, and they're down to 85 now.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
I mean, the thing with Tesla is their manufacturing costs are so much lower than a lot of the automakers that they had huge margins, so they can certainly afford to sell them for less.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been, I think, for those who waited through this, if you didn't have to buy something, for those now, and of course, used car prices are coming down with those. I mean, that comes in that you couldn't have this. The used car prices went through the roof because we couldn't get any new cars onto the lot.
Yep.
Right now, we have an overabundance of both, and I've still, I was going to buy that Tesla truck. And then, when I went with the Legacy, which I'm glad I did, but I'd still like to get a fairly small, the smallest truck I could get for some, just to have as a
I
hauler for
know, in
wood.
case you need to move plywood or something.
Yeah. I can't get a full sheet of plywood in the Outback. That doesn't work very
But
well.
have you needed a full sheet of plywood since you bought your new car?
I have not bought a full sheet of plywood. That's you.
Yeah.
But did you need that camera that you just bought? I mean, are you gonna be vlogging with it, or are you gonna be? Is it for Milo? Maybe on Milo's walks.
I have no comment on that.
Milo's the dog, by the way. So just for folks listening. So.
I'll probably get some good footage on his walk.
Yeah, I bet you could get some really good, maybe some slow motion of him. Water coming off his face. Kind of
That'll
thing.
be good. 120 frames per second slow motion in 4K.
Yeah, or you could start a Friends of Milo Instagram.
Ooh.
Right, and
Do you think he needs his own Instagram?
Yeah, for sure. Are you kidding? He would be wildly popular on Instagram.
Here's the problem. I can't even be bothered posting to mine. I really don't see myself.
It'll be different if it's him.
It could be. It could be.
I mean, because listen, you're a busy guy. You have a lot of things to do.
Right.
So you can't for you, but for Milo, maybe there's
Jim. He's not going to be able to do it himself. I still think I would have to be very involved in his Instagram.
Well, maybe a little bit. Maybe just a picture a day. Maybe you get some tips from Tony Rayner. He's pretty good at taking those. Somehow in his busy life, he finds times to post things. Maybe Tony.
I'll consider it.
Maybe we need to have you on Home Gadget Geeks to talk about how you post. How does a busy person who works the crazy hours you work post all those things to Twitter? And I mean, I don't know. We inquiring minds want. Ed's a busy guy. Inquiring minds want to know. So
I don't know if it's so much busy as lazy nowadays.
Well, yeah, but you don't have to, right? You don't have to. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah, Tony's going to fly his drone.
Nice.
Not right now, Jim. Tomorrow.
No. I still want that security drone that when something, although with as often as my ring cams go off, that thing would be shooting up in the air and then coming down, shooting up in the air and coming all day long. It would just be shooting up. I want that security drone that if it detects something on my ring cam,
and then
in the air, and then starts filming.
And will it follow the perpetrators?
I would hope. Like that would be, maybe mark them. Like it would have some pink spray paint that it would come swooping down and like those exploding dye packets that
they used to put in the money.
It would hit them with one and then boof on them. And
be awesome.
It would be me at 9:00 at night when I'm taking the trash out.
That would be the issue.
Yeah. See, Brian wants one. He says he wants one of those. So I think they would be just super. A box, the top would pop, and then it would start, it'd start moving towards where the camera detected it from.
Man, you've got all this planned out.
Sirens would come on the corners of the house. Rant, 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 rant. Something super annoying that my neighbors would just love me for.
I don't think you need that.
No, I think you're right. I actually think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. You've talked me out of a lot of things.
I have to. You'd have so much junk right now. I just buy high-end junk.
You do. You buy way more expensive things than I do.
I mean, none of it's junk. It's just
it's great. It's great stuff.
I think I might need someday.
Yeah. Well, but the event that you did, a lot of the stuff that you had laying around, you used.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Live folks, we'll see you next week. Don't forget Aaron's out. Come out, and we'd love to see you next week. And thanks for coming out, Ed. Hang tight 1 second.
Sure.
We'll see you next week. Take care.